we started in January, February with what was a health crisis, healthcare crisis.
Yep.
Some countries like UAE, New Zealand, Taiwan, South Korea, Denmark, largely actually smaller countries with very coherent technocratic healthcare systems and decisive leadership did very well in the first part. And some countries, including the United States or Iran or United Kingdom, ironically, a hodgepodge of different countries did very poorly in that first wave. The second wave was then economic wave, which is, and countries like UAE, Denmark, New Zealand cannot be immune to it because they're part of the global economy. In fact, the more UAE became part of the global economy, I would say in the past decade, the more vulnerable it would be to changes in global dynamics. So, as I mentioned, demand collapsed in the West, supplies was disrupted, then the price of oil collapsed. And now a lot of countries around the world are trying to deal with what is a major economic crisis. That's the United States, it's Argentina, it's China, it's Japan, it's a whole host of countries are dealing with economic crisis. Now, looking at history, we also know that major economic shocks have political and strategic consequences. There are governments whose relationship with their own populations are going to change. The social contract they have with their people has to be renegotiated. For instance, if an African country is subsidizing, certain sector of the economy, it may no longer be able to do so. If in countries that are, let's say, multi-ethnic, and certain ethnic group is being subsidized from the center, and that's keeping the peace in the country, those things may come apart. I mean, a case in point is under economic pressure right now, Pakistan might be renegotiating a distribution of resources to its provinces under the 18th Amendment of the Constitution, which actually has kept ethnic peace in Pakistan for the past decade and a half, 2 decades. So will that change the dynamics internally? I think regional priorities are going to change because wherever in the world you are, foreign policy is tied to how much attention you need to pay to stability at home. Stability at home has to do with bread and butter issues. So in a way, the third wave, which we're going to see over the horizon, and we're not there yet, is that we're going to see countries, essentially, they're not admitting it right now. We would have to sit down and see what's the most important priority for them. Priorities of populations change. And then they're going to look at this US-China rivalry. They're going to look at what's happening in their own neighborhoods. And then they say that, okay, how does that change my foreign policy priority? Look at the price collapse of the price of oil in our neighborhood. You take a country like Algeria, its comfort zone might be around $150 a barrel. At $15 to $20 a barrel, it has a massive gap. So how will Algerian government's priorities change? How will that impact North Africa's priority changes? So it is possible to think that some of the trends that we saw in the past may not be there in the future. And countries may back away from certain conflicts because they have other priorities. And at the same time, new conflicts may arise which demand their attention. Conflicts that were not there before, that will demand their attention. But also, I do think that there are some openings that are there. For instance, you mentioned UAE using this opportunity to help 50 different countries with both facilitating and providing medical assistance during a time of crisis. So that's a diplomatic opening that didn't exist with countries before, most notably, let's say, with Iran. For instance, despite all of the tensions between UAE and Iran, UAE has played a very important, critical role in providing very critical medical assistance. Now, doesn't matter what the government necessarily thinks about it, people know it, and that changes the reaction of the people to these sets of issues. So it's possible that opening may help reduce tensions.